So today you will see on the slide, we're going to continue with the topic, the general ledger. We have started with it yesterday as well. So we're going to continue today with that, and then we will finish off that topic today. Right, but before we start, let's just start greeting each other in the box. Right, let's just first revise a little bit from yesterday about the general ledger, and let's start with the format. Remember, I said it's going to be like a T account that you're going to do. It's going to look like a T, and then basically the same information on the left-hand side that we call our debit side will also be on the right-hand side that we are going to call our credit side. Then if we look at the headings there, okay, so it doesn't matter if it's debit or credit side, it's the same headings. Then you're going to start with your date, the first two columns. And when we're going to get to an example now, please look again at how we are going to write the date in. Then we're going to have details. In details, we're going to write that friend's name in. At this stage, mostly it's going to be bank. And then the small FOL folio column, that is going to be, if you're going to use it, you're going to write the abbreviation of the journal for that transaction. You're going to write in like CRJ, CPJ, etc. And then with the amount, of course, is going to be the amount from the transaction. So that is just basically how a T account is going to look like and what the format is going to be. Right, then I've given yesterday a little gold something that you need to remember, and that is Lady Adalick. So if we just quickly go through Lady Adalick, remember the A is standing for assets, the D for drawings, the E for expenses, the L for liabilities, the I for income, and the C for capital. If it is one of the first three, that means assets, drawings, or expenses, then you're always going to write the transactions on the debit side of that account. If it is going to be liabilities, income, or capital, then it's going to be on the credit side of that account. What is important is you need to know now what is falling under assets like vehicles, land and buildings, equipment, etc. You need to know what is falling under expenses like water and electricity, stationery, wages and salaries that you pay, the telephone bill, etc. And with the income, you need to know it's like rent income, commission income, services rendered. You don't really work with liabilities in grade 8, but remember for now it will be creditors and loans. And of course, there are only one drawings and one capital account. Then I've put the example of the capital account there in front of you. So at the top of the T account, you're going to write the name of what the account is all about, what the transaction is all about, like in this case, capital. And then if you look at Lady Adalick, on which side of the account must you do the entries, then it will be on the credit side. Just look how we entered it. Okay, so there I've given you a date of 30 January 2019. Please look how it was entered. First the year, then the month in the first column, and in the second column, the day on which the transaction happened. Details, okay, we will get to that also now later on again, but that is going to be the friend's name. In this case, the friend's name is going to be bank. Okay, and the amount, let's say the amount here was 10,000 Rand, then you're just going to write it into the amount column. Then we also have spoken yesterday about the double entry principle. Now, what is the double entry principle in accounting says? For every debit, and look now at the two accounts next to each other because that is the two friends. For every debit, there is a credit. So if you make the entries on the debit side of the one account, then it should be on the credit side of the friend. Or for every credit, there is a debit. All right, so just look there at the information. Sorry, I think the little cross jumped there with the first one. So I don't know if you have noticed it. So for every debit, right, you can see the crosses in the debit one, but then you will see with the friend next to it, it should be in the credit column. I think when I've made the screen bigger, the cross just jumped to the other side. But the next one is correct. For every credit, there is a debit. Right, so basically that is what we have done yesterday so far, but you need to keep those basics in mind when we're going to move now on. All right, and today we're going to look first at some more examples. So there I've given you a transaction. Let's first go through the transaction. The owner invested capital into the business, 50,000. Now, when you do the general ledger, two things from the transaction is important. The one thing is get the amount in your head, so it's 50,000. And the second thing is, what is this transaction all about? So what is going to be the name of the T account? Now, this is a capital transaction, so you're going to have a capital account, right? But you will see I've put two accounts there, capital and bank. Why? Because according to the double entry principle and according to the general ledger, in the general ledger, there are always two accounts involved. It's a double entry principle, so double accounts. Two accounts is involved. The one account will be what the transaction is all about, like capital, and the other account is going to be the friend. Now, let's just get a picture in our head of what is happening here. If the owner invested capital, what does that mean to the business? So what is happening with the business bank account? Right. It means the business is getting the money in. The bank account is going to increase. All right. So you can hear the bank account is going to increase. So therefore, bank is going to be the friend. Now, luckily in grade 8, it's still actually easy. In almost like in 99% of the times, your friend is always going to be the bank, but it's going to start to change from next year. Right, but let's go first back to Lady Adalick. Remember, we're now with the capital account, and look there. If you look at Lady Adalick, on which side of the account must be the entry? Right, C for capital, so it must be on the credit side. Okay, so there you will see there is the entry on the credit side. Okay, I've just used randomly a date there, 30 May 2020. And then with details, you need to write in the friend's name. And what is the friend now? Bank. Then in folio, you need to write in, if you have taken that transaction, in which journal were you supposed to write that transaction in? Now, I mean, a capital transaction is always going to the CRJ. And then the amount from the transaction, the 50,000. Right. Now, before we get into bank, what is the double entry principle in accounting says? For every credit, and look now, capital is credited, there must be a debit. So look now at bank. So what are you going to do with your friend bank? You're going to write it on the debit side. So you can see now, I've got both of them there in front of you, so you can see the double entry principle. For every credit, there is a debit. So it must always be on the opposite side. Right, so with bank, okay, right, I think you know the date by now. And then with details, now you're going to write the other friend's name in. So you get this information from capital. Still, your journal will be the same, the CRJ. Still, your amount is going to be the same, the 50,000. So quickly look at the slide again, especially regarding the double entry principle in accounting, to understand, to see for every credit, and the capital account was credited, there is a debit, and we have debited the bank account. So those two accounts work together. They are two friends at the end of the day. Right. Another example. Let's first read the transaction. Pay Telkom the telephone account with a check, 1,000 rand. What did I say? First of all, what is the two things you need to take from the transaction? Right, first the amount, 1,000 rand. And secondly, what is this transaction all about? It's about the telephone bill that you're going to pay. So, right, the transaction is about telephone, so that is going to be your account. But again, you need to decide who is going to be the friend of telephone. You need to pay it, so the business bank account is going to decrease, therefore the bank is going to be the friend. So right, so the two accounts or the two friends involved here is going to be telephone and bank. Okay, now first going back to Lady Adalick, we have telephone. Okay, so look at Lady Adalick. On which side of telephone are we going to do the entries? Okay, telephone is an expense, and expenses must be on the debit side. Okay, so check there, expense, and expenses must be on the debit side. Okay, so there you will see there's the entries on the debit side of the telephone account. I've put a date in, again 30 May 2020. With details, I've put now the friend's name in there, and that is bank. Then, normally with the folio, which journal will be involved here? If you pay something, it must be the CPJ, and the amount is 1,000 rand. Right, and now you're going to do the friend bank. Okay, but let's take the double entry principle. The double entry principle in accounting is saying for every debit, and we debited telephone, there must be a credit. So what are we going to do with bank? We're going to credit bank. Right? Same story, the date is there. Just remember now in details, you need now to write the other friend's name in. So it's going to be telephone, still the CPJ, still 1,000 rand it's going to be. Okay, so again, scan at this slide. Right? Two accounts, two friends is involved. The double entry principle is saying if you debit the one, like telephone, the other one, that's going to be bank now, must be credited. Basically, the same information you're going to write in, like the date, the amounts, the journals, is just the friends' names in details that's going to change the whole time. Okay, where do you start? You start with what is the transaction all about, telephone, and you take telephone according to Lady Adalick. That is going to help you to decide on which side of the account you're going to enter it. Right, now I hope you've got a piece of paper ready. Now you're going to practice a few and then we're going to mark it. So I'm giving you the transactions for May 2020. Let's just scan quickly through the transactions. Purchase a vehicle from Bason Motors per check, 1,000 rand. Okay, so it will be vehicles and bank will be the two accounts here. Pay municipality per check for the water and electricity bill, 1,800. Rent receipt from W. Smith, 8,000 rand, and a receipt was issued. The owner withdraw money from the business for his own use per check, 500 rand. Now, what do I want you to do now? First of all, I hope you've got Lady Adalick because you have copied it yesterday. So I hope you've got that with you so you can look at that. Then, just roughly on a piece of paper, you're going to draw T accounts. Okay, and you're going to try to do these transactions. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 transactions. I'm quickly going to give you a peek on the next slide so you can see what I mean by just doing it roughly, the T accounts. Can you see what I've done there? I've just made a little T. I've entered the name of the account at the top, and then I've just put roughly in the friend's name and the amount. So no dates, no journals. Okay, right, I'm going back. You've got your peak. So just like I said, roughly you draw a T account. No necessary to make it nicely with all the different columns now. And you just write every time in the friend's name and the amount is going to be involved. What is important now from this exercise? I want you to understand who is the two friends and on which side of the account you should enter it. Right, so I'm going to give you a few minutes for that. Let's say I will give you 10 to 15 minutes to complete this and then we can mark it. All right. If you have questions, people, you know how to work. You put it in the chat box. Okay, somebody's asking if I've marked the test. Okay, people, I will only start to try to mark it over the weekend. Can I just to give you an idea? Remember that I have the grade 7s, you guys, and the grade 9s. The grade 7s have also done over 2 days in assessment. Yours was over 2 days, and the grade 9s was over 3 days. So I've got so many assessments to mark now. So please just bear with me, but I will mark it and then I will come back to you guys as well. Oh yeah, and then the grade 7s should have done a poster for me as well. So I'm actually busy marking their posters, but I promise you, as soon as I finish it, then I will get to you guys back regarding your marks about the assessment. All right, I'm glad that you're indicating to me when you're done. I'm just going to give another minute or two so you can finish up. Right, so let's see how did you do. So let's start with the first one that is saying purchase a vehicle from Bason Motors per check, R1,000. So first of all, you decide who is the two friends, right? It's going to be vehicles and bank. Remember your amount is going to be 100,000. I'm just going to move to the next slide. Okay, now please check here what I've done. With vehicles, let's start there. Now, if you look at Lady Adalick, which side of the account must you do the entries for vehicles? Then you will see vehicles is an asset, therefore it must be on the debit side. And on the debit side, I've entered the friend's name, bank, and the amount 100,000. Okay, remember what I've said? I've done it roughly. So I didn't put dates now in and I didn't put the journals in with the small folio column. But if you purchase a vehicle, you need to pay for it. So I can already tell you the journal should have been the CPJ. Then look now at the bank account, but let's just finish up this transaction first. So vehicles was debited. According to the double entry principle, for every debit, there must be a credit. So look at bank. Bank is now credited with the friend's name vehicles and the amount 100,000. Okay, so I think before we continue, if you look at bank, you can see what I've done is I didn't draw up a bank account for each and every transaction. So I've used only one bank account, but then I've made all the necessary entries in that one bank account. Doesn't matter if it must go to the debit or the credit side. Okay, but let's go back and let's look at the next one. Pay the municipality per check for the water and electricity bill, 1,800. So again, the two friends are supposed to be water and electricity and bank. Okay, remember the amount, 1,800. If we look at water and electricity, on which side must we do the entries? If you look at Lady Adalick, then water and electricity is an expense. Expenses must be written in on the debit side. So therefore on the debit side is the entry. You write the friend's name in their bank and the amount 1,800. Then we go to bank, but look at the double entry principle. For every debit, and we have debited water and electricity, there must be a credit. And it's now on the credit side of bank is the entry. Now you write water and electricity, that is the friend now, and the amount is 1,800. Right, next one. Rent received from W. Smith, 8,000 Rand, and a receipt was issued. So first of all, who is the two friends here? Right, it's rent received, but remember the correct name of the account must be involved here, and that will be rent income and of course bank. Rent income and bank, and remember the amount, the 8,000 Rand. Right, there at the bottom left-hand side, there is rent income. Now, you look at Lady Adalick, rent income is an income, and income must be on the credit side. So on the credit side, there's your entries. You're going to write the friend's name in their bank, and the amount is 8,000 Rand. Should you have written the journal in? Okay, rent income, rent received, then it will go to your CRJ. Now look at this one. Double entry principle in accounting is saying for every credit, and we have credited rent income, there must be a debit. And now on the debit side of bank, there's the entry with the friend's name, rent income, and the amount, 8,000 Rand. Right? And the last one, the owner withdraw money from the business for his own use per check, 500 Rand. Now, first of all, what do we call it when the owner withdraws money for his own personal use? We call it drawings. So the one friend is drawings, bank is going to be the other friend, the amount is going to be 500 Rand. And there's your entry. So let's start with drawings, right-hand side bottom. If you look at Lady Adalick, drawings must be on the debit side with the friend's name bank. The amount is 500 Rand. And then the double entry principle in accounting is saying for every debit, there must be a credit. So on the credit side of bank, there's the entries for drawings, 500 Rand. Right. Then the last thing that we're going to do for today is quickly look at the bank account. So all the other accounts you can see for now had either entries on the debit side or the credit side, except bank. Bank at this stage is having entries on both sides. Now you can think for yourself, if you're going to do a very big exercise, how is your bank account going to look like? It's going to be massive with all the entries. So with bank, what you see in front of you is correct, but we are going to do bank a little bit different in the accounting to make it easier, so the bank account is not going to be so massive. So what you are supposed to do, and I will show now your new bank account on the next slide, is basically you need to add up everything on the debit side. Now at this stage, there was only one entry on the debit side of 8,000 Rand. So I'm going to move now, check what happens. Okay, this is now your new bank account. As I said, you are supposed to add up all the entries on the debit side, and then you only put the total on the debit side. Here it was only one entry, so it's only that one total of 8,000 Rand. Then you will also see, right, I didn't put the date in. Normally you will put your date in, and then with details, you're going to write total receipts. And it's coming from the CRJ, total receipts. And then I'm going back and look now at the credit side of bank. There was a few transactions. So what do you need to do? You need to add them up, get the total, and it's only the total that you're going to write then on the credit side of bank. The date is supposed to be there, and then you will see it's going to be total payments, CPJ, and then what the total of that column is, CPJ, total payments. Right, so that is the last thing for today. So let me just revise on this bank account. So I think you've started to get the idea how to do the entries in the general ledger with the two friends, and according to the double entry principle, how you must do it. Then bank is supposed to look like what you see in front of you. But as I said, with a very big activity, then your bank account is going to be massive. So we're going to work bank a little bit different. So what you are supposed to do is to add up everything on the debit side, and then you take it as one total on the debit side, and you write the total receipts. And then you need to do the same on the credit side. You need to add up everything, get one total, and that one total is what you're going to write on the credit side, and then that will be for total payments. Right, people, any questions for today? I will look in the box. Any questions? Right, it doesn't look like that. So I'm just going to show you that we are done then for today. So thank you very much, guys. And then we will talk tomorrow again. All right. Okay then. Goodbye.